Welcome to Tuesday, everyone. This is Aftermarket Psychology Lab. I'm Coach Becky, and I'm so glad you guys are here with me today. I have been with you guys about 3 months, and I'm kind of just flipping through all kinds of topics that you guys inspire me to think of and that I think might be good, and kind of where we're at and building a rapport with you guys. And just last week, we were in live stream chatting, and a trader had mentioned just where they are at in their journey. And it reminded me of this phrase that I love. It's new level, new devil. Has anyone heard of it before I'm saying it today? Because I wonder if it's just me that loves this and I'm weird, or if more people have heard it. This phrase, new level, new devil, though, is the inspiration of today's episode. And we're going to talk about why growing in trading is not just linear. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I definitely have, where growth in trading is not actually linear. It's more of an ebb and flow, and that with each new level, there is a new devil, new challenges, and new experiences. So today, though, for the Psychology Lab, we're going to talk about growing as traders, which, right? That's why we're here. We're here to have a psychology conversation with other traders about our growth in this industry. And so there's all sorts of angles that we can cover with that. And so today I wanted to get into this concept, why growing in trading does come with new challenges. And this applies not only to new traders, but also recently profitable traders who are working on scaling their accounts, or you have scaled and you're hitting some emotional ceilings and experiencing some pushback in your, targets and goals as a trader. And so this phrase really helped me normalize my struggle as I approached higher levels in my trading and my journey overall. And so I kind of want to cover it with you guys, because if you haven't really thought through the experience of leveling up as traders, it's something to think about and prepare for, I would say. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm really grateful for you all being here with me. This is live streamed, and then it will be posted on YouTube after the fact on Blue Sky Trading Company's channel. And then that's going to be broadened even more so in the coming months here to different streaming platforms, but for sure on our YouTube. All right, so why does this topic matter for traders? It's kind of a random phrase if you haven't heard it before, new level, new devil. But most traders, I think, expect once you have, air quotes, arrived in trading, once you've figured out a profitable system, you think that it's all just momentum up, right? It's nice higher highs, higher lows, little drawdowns, little pullbacks, but mostly just you've arrived, right? It's going to be great. But sometimes I would caution that growth sometimes can feel worse for periods during that phase. And that oftentimes people will experience some wins and then a pullback and then some higher wins and then struggle. And then there's a lot of quitting, actually. A lot of numbers fall off after a couple actual rounds of higher highs and higher lows. And so that's a very real thing for a lot of traders, that you can have experiences where you're getting better and better, but then still run into a wall that you just feel like you can't get beyond and quit. So this, I want to kind of reframe that this is going to be, these periods that we're going to experience as traders are evidence of growth and not necessarily something we need to back away from. Have any of you felt this? Like when you are on a green streak, when you are doing really well in trading, there's pressure, there's angst, there's nerves, there's more stress to maintain. I think that there's a breakdown of that. I think that when you get better execution, you're going to have a little bit of a higher stakes. I think when you get more skills, you also feel like there's some more responsibility that goes along with that. And then, you get more confidence. Then you can get more to lose because you sometimes want to leverage up, and then it feels different as you progress. And so if it feels harder at higher levels, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing it wrong. It more so means that you're advancing, like you are pushing yourself, you're pushing your boundaries, and you're advancing to higher levels. And so that's exciting, but also something to think about and work through. So what does new level, new devil mean as a phrase? So it's basically like each level as we advance in something, such as your trading journey, you're going to experience new pressures, fears, blind spots, criteria that you didn't anticipate having to work through. And so if you can think about it like a video game, you start on level 1, where you just basically you learn how to move the controllers, how to run down the track, how to jump over obstacles, how to battle the first easiest bosses that there is. So simple enemies, easy consequences. The end comes pretty quickly. teaches you how to play the game. But at higher levels, it is the same game, but there's more complexity, more depth, more difficulty, more struggle, more setbacks, more resets. And so that is really analogous to trading. The goal was never to not have challenges or to have it stay easy, because then why would you continue to play it? But the goal instead is you want to, in that video game analogy, to earn the better challenges, to earn the higher, more complex levels, to get challenged, to earn skills, and then have to use them at higher levels of complexity and mixtures in order to tackle the next level up. So I kind of have to normalize that this discomfort is part of mastery. You don't want to stay stuck on level 1 forever, because honestly, it's not very exciting. Like once you've done some little runs, then it gets less, less of what are you trying to do? Why would you waste your time with that? And so your old problems, they were something you had to work through and learn, and they didn't disappear, but instead they morphed, they evolved, they changed and grew with you. Thanks for the updates in the chat, Matt, about Netflix earnings. Pass new eval, new level after fall down like a stone. Yeah. Well, see, that's exactly it, Maradas. Thank you for saying that you get what I'm talking about, because I have done that so many times to myself. That everybody remembers, right? Their first time that they passed an eval, you're like, yes, like I'm into the paid accounts now. I can start earning. I can start taking out this money that I'm earning. I'm going to use to XYZ bills or trips or whatever you want to buy. But that doesn't necessarily mean that was what you got to do, right? Our first professional account has not necessarily gone straight into our bank account. Anyone else been there? Because I have. Okay, so I am all about giving credit where credit is due. And when I hear something from someone, yeah, Netflix is dropping. Oh, yeah. When I hear something from someone, I want to make sure to give credit to the person that I heard it from, because I am not the knower of all things and the creator of all content. More so, I hear things and I love them and I make notes. I have so many Post-it notes in my office, I cannot even tell you. I honestly probably should get a better organizational system for all of my notes of quotes that I love. But this one, I don't even need to post it anymore, because it's from the great Eddie Pinero. He has a couple podcasts actually, but his main one that was initial is called Your World Within, on this slide here. And he is the one who I first heard this from and was like, no, Amaro, I'm so sorry. Everyone else can hear me, right? You guys will let me know. Sorry, man. Sorry, it'll be posted. There you go. We'll tag you in it. Okay, so if you guys haven't followed Eddie, he's awesome. He is he just does like inspirational, different, like motivational, really kind of poetic content. It speaks to my soul, his content, but he uses it in the context of personal growth and identity expansion and responsibility scaling. He is someone who worked in the corporate world and then just felt a calling to do creative work and inspire others and kind of create like stories. And so that's what his channel is about, out in the ether. And he really took this older saying of new level, new devil, and created this kind of spinoff on it. And it basically is the message of growth requires new versions of you. I know Discord is a pain. Yeah. It will be posted. So I definitely want to have a conversation with you guys and give a nod to him, because he talks about how every time you expand your life, you don't get peace, but you get a new test, which is so valuable for me to hear, because I want you guys to think about that with your trading, that as you get better as traders, as you start to leverage up and take on more and more, I guess, heat kind of, then you're not going to just arrive and all of a sudden be profitable and be able to make 500 or 1,000 every day till the end of time. Instead, you're going to face different thoughts, different challenges, new markets, the opportunity to potentially level up and get new tests. Somebody tell him I did not block him. But I do want you guys to think about, with your consistency as traders, there's going to be fear associated with that. Every time that you get to a new level, we're humans, right? And so we are going to experience a fear of losing it. You will get a bigger size, but then that will come with some emotional volatility in terms of, second guessing yourself and not sure if it's working or not. And then as you do trade better and better, you build up your system, you become a stronger trader, you're going to get some confidence with that, as you should, as you have earned. But confidence is a fine line with ego. And so there's going to be an issue with leveling up your mental game around that. I don't know if I should stop or not because a couple people are having audio issues. I'm so sorry. On my end, I am unmuted and full internet and everything. So I think I'm just going to keep going. And if it drops off, you guys, I'm so sorry. Catch the replay, I guess. My recording system is catching my audio as well. So to those that are here with me, I appreciate you. I'm not going to reset since more people can hear than can't. So I think I'll just keep going. Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk today about how we can reinforce our mindsets as we go through this, because this is a part of growing as a trader, is becoming better with working through your system. So, I had to give the nod to Eddie Pinero. That's where I heard it from. And he's done a beautiful job with this whole concept, but it is older than him, of course. This actually is really deeply rooted in philosophy and stoicism. Many of you maybe have heard of Marcus Aurelius or Nietzsche. What does not kill me, the obstacle is the way. Basically, pushing through hard things and persevering will bring you to the promised land, right? It's The Hero's Journey is another story. Joseph Campbell is an author. The Hero's Journey is one of his more famous texts. And this is basically covering this whole topic of when you encounter a stress, that is a signal that you can push through to greater breakout and breakthrough to levels above. And so it's a universal human experience of people who push boundaries and things. So it's not necessarily a trading issue. It's a human growth issue more so, of when we push past our natural comfort zones, it's going to feel different. It's going to feel more alone because not everyone does this. Not everyone is with you on this ride. And so in really meaningful pursuits that have extra pressures, there's going to be kind of a threshold guardian, you could say, that says, you're not safe anymore. This is weird. I don't know if this is going to work. Maybe you should go home. It's, walking down a dark alley. Maybe you should turn back to where the streetlights are. But maybe on the other side of the dark alley is like the best place in the whole world. Similar kind of concept, right? For a visual. And so a lot of times, most humans will respect what is safe. And you stay behind the line, stay back, in what we know keeps us safe. I think the challenge that we are encountering as traders, we shouldn't view it as something that's blocking our path, but more so as the path that we want to take. If you want to really do big things that not a lot of people do, I think that there is an argument for staying, more safe. And that is pretty common, but it's not really what it takes to become a massively successful, profitable trader. And I think that that's why we're all here, is that we know enough about trading and we recognize the benefit that it could bring to us, the beautiful P&Ls and the financial freedom that can come from learning how to be a really excellent trader, building up accounts, being able to diversify and invest and play the market in multiple different ways. That has to be built. And that is not built on a super smooth, easy track that is always wins. It's going to come through encountering resistance, encountering failed trades, learning from them, and failing slightly less each time. And so in modern psychology, the concept of that stress signal, it means that the body's stress response is triggered by pushing past normal boundaries, but it's not necessarily designed to be a harmful warning that you can no longer continue, but rather it acts more as a communication system that will just say something to you. And you can decide then, when you get that signal of pushback, to survive, to persevere, to adjust, to see what is next in the challenge, or to pull back. That's a choice that you get to make when you get signals that you're pushing through to a new level. And the body has a stress response to that. It's basically, a conservation mechanism where it says, what are we doing here? There's an alarm that goes off in your brain and your body, and that wants to maintain a neutrality, homeostasis. It wants to keep you safe and stable. And so when that warning light comes on in your life, in your journey, in your perseverance, you need to think about what you want to do with it and decide. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stop. But it is a signal point, basically, to think about what you want to do when you get to resistance in life in general, but then specifically for trading. So then, specifically for trading, when do we encounter this? So I would say definitely as your skill increases, you're going to experience this. Also, as your skill increases, you see more, you understand more, you start to look at different markets, you start to trade a little bit heavier. Your emotional load is going to increase when you start to go bigger, essentially, into your trading role. Maybe you downsize your other work, your other gig that is paying you, and you up in your trading, double down in your commitment to becoming a profitable trader. That's a way that we increase the emotional and stress load as traders. You also will increase your risk because every time you go slightly larger in your leverage, you're going up in your risk as well, pretty much always. I mean, there's some little ways that nuances with that, but you go bigger on your risk as well as your potential rewards. And so that also impacts your identity. So there's like multiple ways that this is all kind of a complex growing organism, essentially, of learning through this. And so you have to, first as a trader, you start to learn the mechanics and what a good trade signal is, what a setup is, and the mechanisms of entering and exiting it. Then you start to work through your consistency and be able to capitalize it more than not, and to avoid the poorer quality trades and more often catch the higher quality trades. Then you start to scale your size and figure out, when you mostly are taking really good trades, how do you take them slightly bigger, slightly more often in different markets potentially. So there's different ways to scale your trading. And then also you have to protect your capital. And so, as your accounts grow, as you become a better trader, as you scale up, you're going to have those larger winning days over time, months to years, we're talking here. Then you figure out how to protect that capital and diversify and put it in different buckets that will be working for you when you're not just at your screen doing your day trading. And so most traders, I think we can think through logically about preparing technically for the next levels. But when you get into it, when you are in this world, immersed in it day to day, and you're starting to feel it, there's not a great way to emotionally prepare for these new levels that you're going to experience. In our minds, right? I just spent a couple minutes talking through the technicals of this trader journey and leveraging up, but emotionally, that you just have to work through it when it comes. And I don't know, maybe this is hitting home for some of you, that you have felt some of this pushback where, you thought something would be easy and you were ready and it made sense and you knew how you wanted to leverage it. And then when you started trading it, it was a different situation. You had a literal body response, a stress response, maybe an impact to your sleep, and you're a little bit crabby, a little bit on edge. That's because you are pushing your boundaries. So here's some different new levels in trading, new devils in trading that you will experience at each of these levels, right? So after your first profitability, I think there's not a trader in this room that has not experienced this. Your first period of profitability, whether it was you were an early, easy winner and then you hit your drawback, or you started losing and then finally you were profitable. Well, once you have your first period of profitability, there's going to be an encounter of fear of giving it back because you finally studied, learned, spent some time, and got some income as a result of that. And then you don't want to give it back. So there's a risk there of that fear of what, that outcome, how that can go. And then also scaling size. So, when you scale up, there's going to be an emotional response to all of a sudden the numbers being thrown around on your P&L are quite a bit higher than they were just last week. And so you're going to have an emotional reaction to that. And that can cause you to squeeze your trade, to mismanage, to trade outside of your trading system. If you are not fully systematized in your trading, if you have some discretion in how you pull your triggers and manage your trade, then you're going to have an emotional reaction to that when you see larger numbers on the screen. Again, after the consistency, because sometimes when you get really consistent with your trading and I trade XYZ setups and this is how I trade them, you can get bored. And then you can engage in some messing around and potentially overtrade or feel like you're so good that you want to revenge trade potentially if a trade doesn't hit that is in your normal variance. And sometimes not all your trades are going to hit. But if you are used to being really consistently profitable, you could get into a battle mode there too. And then again, that ego that can come in when you get into competence. So, all right, I'm going to ask you guys, have any of you encountered these, or any of you guys in any of these modes now? What are you currently battling or experiencing or working through? Has anyone ever experienced these new devils and a pushback in your system? Anyone trying to scale up or maintain consistency? Anyone on a winning streak and they're dealing with, confidence versus ego? It's hard because you can start to get confident and then you can consider bending your rules, taking a little extra trades because you're on fire, or going a little heavier than your system dictates because you've been on a streak. Thanks, RQ, for your interaction. Yeah, the unstoppable feeling it's a great feeling, but there's some risk to that. Nobody wants to get wrecked. It's not as fun. So these are predictable. If you think about it, if we engage our, logical brain, this makes total sense. Right now, I don't know about you guys, we're not trading anymore. The New York session is closed. We're not putting leverage on right now. That's exactly it, Coach Matt. Yep. Yeah, trendy trigger. Like I have been there. I'm actually gonna in a minute here tell you about my experience last year with this because it's very real to know in our logical brains that these cycles are consistent and predictable and it makes sense and that these are not personal flaws in us, that we have been there. Oh my gosh, right? Your first payout and then blew your account trying to rush the next one, right? I don't know a single trader who has stayed consistent after their first set of payouts, either one payout or a couple payouts. There's an experience that happens with that. It's like a rite of passage, to be honest. And if I'm popping anyone's bubble right now, I'm sorry. Maybe tune this out for a moment. But when you get your first payout, there is a psychological hurdle to that, and that is this entire conversation today. That is the new level, new devil conversation. When you first get a payout from a prop firm, if you feel amazing, you feel like you have arrived, it feels like the promised land that you have been striving towards, and you finally met all the metrics and passed all the levels, and it is real and it's in your account and you can go shopping or out to dinner. Then there's a minute after that, and it could be termed, trader self-sabotage. And it's not because you're bad or you're not a good trader or you don't have a good system, but it's more so that this experience, this psychological experience that we're talking about today, is real and you're not always prepared for it. And even if you do try to prepare for it, it's an experience that you have to work through. It's just kind of a rite of passage, to be honest. Like, I think that that's very true. I'm missing a slide. Did I go too far? I think I just didn't make one for this one, but I do want to talk about how this is not a bad sign for who you are as a trader. It doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you were doing great before or that you're regressing in any way, that you didn't deserve the success that you have earned. But more so, it means that you just need to recognize that this is a level to push through. Your nervous system needs to catch up to your performance. It needs to recognize that you are the trader that earned this place and you get to keep moving forward, and that your skills sometimes will upgrade faster than your emotional tolerance. And that is a very real experience that you are. If you're here today, right, you have people around you that are traders. You're in rooms having conversations about being a strong, skilled trader. And so those experiences, those conversations are going to level up your ability to take great trades. And so your skills will grow, but your emotional tolerance has to follow that with time. And I do love the fact that this whole point that stagnation is not safer. Staying small does not eliminate fear. It just keeps you kind of stuck. I think it can create long-term regret if you get enough of a system, but then you get fearful of the next level. If you try for the next level and you fail, which is, by the way, super normal, but then you choose to not try again and figure out what's going on, reach out to a coach or mentor, work your way through it. But instead you just avoid pushing your boundaries and avoid the next levels and stay where you are, or even back away, lean into something else, hop strategies. I think that can lead to this long-term regret that we're talking about, because your comfort zone will hold you snug. But in discovery mode, think about the VWAP bands, right? When they're tight and contracted, it's a small, tight, choppy range. But in discovery mode, when they're pushing, you find new levels. Like the chart can push to new levels that you maybe weren't sure it could have before. And so there will be like an uncomfortable level while boundaries are pushed. But stagnation is not, I would argue, is not really better because it's neutral, but it can be a slow bleed. If you never really push your boundaries and start to level up as your skill does, then you're missing out on potential opportunities where you could capitalize more fully. You can really make things happen for you that you have worked towards, you have earned with the time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears that you've put into something. But you do have to choose that short-term stress of growth. It's a choice, right? Which way to go in your trading. And it doesn't have to mean that every time you hit a new level that you have to push through in that moment. You can take pauses and let your nervous system catch up. In fact, you should. that will help you kind of, like flag up, like reach a new level and pause and consolidate there and get used to it, let it settle in, and then push to higher levels. That is very different than never pushing towards it. So I think we have choice in this. Murado, a few payouts to understand, rebuild everything from the beginning. And to be fair, it does feel like when you encounter resistance and you fall back, when you're rebuilding, it feels like a serious gut punch and like you are starting from scratch. But I would tell you right now, from experience, from going through those rebuild periods, you are not starting from scratch. Maybe financially with your accounts, technically, yes, but intellectually, growth-wise, psychologically, technical skill-wise, it is never back to the baseline, because all of those moments of pain and fear and lessons and conversations and quiet subconscious thoughts in your head about what you have gone through, what you did wrong, what you wish you would have done differently, those are shaping you and teaching you. And every time you restart, that knowledge has grown. You have expanded. You know more than you did. You have felt more than you have ever felt before. And that is building you and making you a stronger, more tolerant trader that you can go farther with it. Okay, so those were just out of order. So I'm going to tell you about what I did in my life last year. So winter of last year, like I think Thanksgiving time. So 14 months ago was my most profitable season ever. Like I was taking payouts every couple of days from different accounts, trading diversified. Everything was just kind of growing for me. And through Christmas, it was growing. It was going really well. And then my partner at Market Mamas, that's my podcast that I do, where I met Mike at and came to be with you guys. So I had that podcast with a partner. We started the podcast together, and she was encountering a different experience in her life, in her personal life, and she needed to stop doing the podcast. And so I'm at this place where I'm like, I enjoy Market Mamas. I'm learning. I'm getting better at podcasting. I'm feeling it, of like talking about psychological conversations. My trading is going well. It is growing. And then at Christmas time, she made the call that she was stepping back. And so here I am, like we had fully 50-50 owned the podcast and all of the work, and like grassroots, built it from the ground up, did all the editing and stuff. So then I'm in this place where like I have to fully own this podcast and do, 100% of the work from 50%, which is a lot when you have something, any sort of business. When you go from a 50% responsibility to 100, it's a big deal. And I had 3 kids but I was trading really well and I was on a green streak. So what did I do? Right. So that was a massive impact to my life, my psychology, my stress, my work. And it was all tied to trading. Every episode of Market Mamas is about trading, trader psychology, trader growth, trader journeys, interviews. And so how did I deal with that? So I really just buckled down. I was like, I need to lean into my mentors and my team and like hold steady, because I decided with my husband that I could do it, but it was a lot of work in my life, a lot of sleepless nights, learning how to do parts of the business she had done. So in that period, I like seriously locked in. I was like very task oriented, focused on only my best setups, and really kept my eye on the prize and held super steady. And I was still profitable. My greenest month period was like the 4 months, like Thanksgiving through end of February. It was great. So green, so pretty. But then I think I was downplaying the fact that the stress was building. I think I was, hesitant. There was a lot of things. There was business things. And like, I felt like I was juggling so many balls. And then at the end of February, I feel like everything just fell, and I was struggling with all of the balls fell. I quit trading. Sleep was lacking. Sometimes we can get to a point where you hit a ceiling and you really fall off the ladder, and you can fall down a couple levels. And I just, I don't need to make it weird. We're new friends, but I want you to know that it's real. And I, am green month over month, year over year as a trader. But I am not perfect. And I think Coach Matt, Riz, Mike, a lot of the other coaches here have been coaches a lot longer than I have. And maybe that makes me really good at these psychological conversations, because it was not that long ago. This was like last March, where I just couldn't hold an account to save my soul. And I think that part of that was that like you feel it, right? You feel the experiences of life. And so that is what this topic looks like for one person. Different stressors can come from different things. For me, there was this business stressor, was all compounded with my trading and just an extra workload in my life. But it's different for everyone. And you can choose to take it as feedback and allow it to remind you who you are and what you want to do, and that you previously had a capacity limit, a level that was a struggle point. It's like an emotional edge. And I love that term edge. When we're pushing towards our edges, there's a natural like urge to sink back into where it's safe, to where you're okay and it's easier. And so if you decide to not, and you want to try and push that edge, it's okay to take a step back, to have a red month or what have you, to have some struggles and some slow time for your business or whatever that looks like in what you're pursuing, to have that pullback. But then you can, dial in here. This is where you get to decide where you need to train, where you need to focus. What was it that you hit that knocked you down? How can you adjust? What do you need to figure out? Who do you need to help? Who can you enlist? Where do you need to target first to get back up? And that you can kind of break through and get back on your feet, which is what happened for me last spring. Like I did just lean into the right people, and I got, my mentor back behind me. And so I think every frustration, every period of fear and failure is a reaction. It's a response. It's an alert. And you choose to do with that what you will. And that is kind of, everyone's different. Everyone will need a different time horizon for that, whether it's days, 2 weeks, to a month or two. Depends on how big the problem is, how big it was brewing, who can help you, what finances are tied into it. Thank you for being such a kind human, RQ. I'm a very big fan of you. But I think you do have to just think critically about it. And whatever that looks like for you, if it's journaling, if it's talking to your people, figuring out, what lessons you can take from it, how this might be shaping you, what this could look like on the flip side if you persevere, and how you can take that feedback and grow from it. So let's talk about growing from that, because if anyone else has ever had an experience where they hit a wall and fell on their face, as I have, see, we love RQ. Let's make it actionable and let's get back up again. If you're in the get back up again, if you've never fallen, if you're getting back up right now, what can we do? So level up one variable at a time is something that you can do proactively in order to take each new level in stride and to migrate the way you want to go. So if you are a solid trader, you've had some nice wins, you have built some accounts, don't change everything at once. So this is how you can prepare for your new levels with the most strongest base to not make it too overwhelming. So if you want to level up, pick something, either the amount of trades you're taking in a day, one more contract in your position, or maybe you're trading one market and you want to try to study two and really learn how to move. That way, if one doesn't have an option or a move or a setup that you like, you can look at the other one. Or maybe your schedule, maybe you only ever traded the morning and now you want to see if you can trade both the morning and power hour. But don't change everything at once. You want to, pick something and really kind of lock in to improving one area at a time. Because if you really spread yourself too thin and changing too much at once, that can make it a little bit more challenging. So everything else can stay boring per se if you are increasing in one level. That way it's not as caustic, it's not as strong and powerful and can knock you off your balance. Your brain needs to have some clarity. And if you have too much changing at once, it can feel like chaos and you can lose your focus. And so that's where you don't want to put yourself. And so this can save traders so much emotional churn and spinning your heels if you are trying to keep too many balls in the air. If you can just lock it down to just one or two things, it's that we've talked about this before too, the 1% better strategy each week. And so it's so, we've all heard that phrase a lot of times, but it's a fact that Rome was not built in a day. Neither is your trading journey. So you want to, take it in stride, take it in step, allow it to grow intermittently and think about what you want to change. One of these will speak to you the most, and then start slow. Master each level at a time before. That's why in video games, there's, 100 levels, because they can't just take you from the first level where you learn how to walk and jump to the biggest boss in the video game, because you will die every time. But if they can level you up slowly and get you slowly, harder bosses, then you have a chance at beating the big boss at the end. Can you tell I have a 13-year-old boy? He tells me all the time, he's at, Mom, I'm at blah, blah, blah boss, and I can't. I'm like, I don't. Keep practicing, I guess, when it's time. That's just with trading, though. Okay, so how about this one? If you are going to be a trader forever and you're going to have the best financial freedom that you could ever want, pre-commit to the struggle. You know what I mean? So anticipate that this is just a part of how it goes, because it is well studied since the time of Marcus Aurelius, that there's going to be some emotional turbulence to breaking down these boundaries and pushing to higher levels. So you want to recognize that there is going to be, you see the quotes there, normal discomfort. So discomfort, doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can be a part of the process. And if we recognize that that's going to happen, if we want to break the barriers and push to higher levels, that then bring it on, like a bring it on kind of energy is what I'm saying. So it takes away surprise from it. It shouldn't startle you as much when the first week that you trade a higher size, you're a little bit, you might be tapping your heels. You might be a little bit anxious. You might need a little less coffee to feel a little more awake. And so if you scale size, you might expect a little bit of fear, a little bit of hesitation, maybe a mismanagement of a trade for a couple weeks while that settles in. But if you know that going into it and say, you can talk yourself through that, the discomfort can confirm that you are progressing, that this was the plan. It's not necessarily a failure. Instead, it's what you're choosing to do with your trading, because you want the higher outcomes. So you need to accept the role that requires. And so that can reduce kind of a panic driven decision-making situation where you're like, nope, I feel like I'm losing. This is already too much P&L. I don't want to do it. Instead, be like, I knew that this was going to be the outcome. So I'm still going to lean into my level, to my setup. I'm going to manage it how I have determined I'm going to manage it. And then when you're in that moment, it can take it down a couple notches in terms of your emotional response that, if left unrestrained or unacknowledged, can damage you a little bit. So pre-committing to the struggle is a positive success strategy with that. So this one is hard for all of us, but if we can shrink the meaning of losses. So losses at higher levels feel like a bigger deal. You did level up because you felt like you had a real edge and that you were ready and that you have built yourself to this point. And so if you can't succeed at those levels, it might feel a little bit personal. What if you just started trade copying? You got two separate accounts, paid accounts, live accounts, and then you started copying them. Well, then how do you feel if you have a red day and it's, instead of one account red day, it's a double account red day? Oh no, I'm going to blow it. You gotta downsize that. You gotta quiet the negative, the fear-based talking, and instead lean into your system, their probabilities, your strategy, your risk to reward. If you always trade 2-to-1 and you only trade your best setups, like, that's a profitable system over time. And so you want to separate your identity from each day, each trade. A red day at a higher size shouldn't mean more to you, and it shouldn't indicate a character flaw or a system flaw necessarily. It should be a part of this system that you are pushing through, and anticipating that should help you, in theory, make less of what your P&L outcome is. And something that you can do to help with that is journaling through it, talking to your accountability partner or your team, and then tracking your execution, but not necessarily the P&L. More so lean into paying attention to what my setup looks like and how I manage it. And did I do that? And was this trade successful or not successful? And if it wasn't, what could I have missed in the technicals and how could I have managed it better? Not, my day was red and I shouldn't have lost XYZ. Instead, think about all of the variables and that you are growing, and it's normal to have to work through these conversations. And that doesn't mean that you're messing up per se because it was a red outcome. More so, you just need to treat it as a day, and it was a lesson to learn from. All right, one more strategy here on this topic, and that is building recovery skills and not striving for perfection. Because, this is the game that we're in, right? Of traders, that mistakes are inevitable and that speed of recovery matters so much more. The quicker you can keep yourself calm and get back in the game and recognize that it's not you, it's the variance of the situation, that will help you have more emotional resilience and be stronger through this process. Because I would argue that from what I have read and researched, I love learning about traders who are 20, 40 years in the game and have traded through many more market cycles than me, who have leveraged up to higher levels that I am not close to yet. I love asking and researching into the heart of their growth. And a lot of what I find is that they're not calm, but they follow a process and they recover faster from losses. They let it go. They recognize that it's within their system. This is who they are. They are traders. They are not 100% win rate because nobody is. And so then it just cannot take them down because it's more important to hold psychologically stable. And so for us that are me, for any of you that might also be newer in that realm of how many decades you've been trading, this is something that has to be taught. You have to build this in yourself and who you are and how you approach your journey, that calm respect of the risk and the respect of the red days, that your P&L and your equity curve should not be a perfect uptrend because that's not realistic. And so how can you emotionally reset as quick as possible after, a subpar day potentially? What are you doing for that? So plan for that. So figure out your recovery skills, what speaks to you, what brings your body back to a more neutral nervous system stance and neutrality in your mind, ability to focus and calm and go quiet and sleep at night. And so that's different for everyone. Hobbies, movement, exercise, community, conversation. Maybe you have a person, whether it's your partner or accountability partner, best friend, someone that you can speak to, get out of your head, recognize that you're still a strong, powerful person. You have a life that you enjoy outside of your charts. I think we're each different in that. And we've had a different episode about how you can find that neutrality in your life, that balance. But think about planning for this, because as you leverage up, expect the resistance that we've been talking about and know that there's going to be a period where you need to calm yourself back down and let it happen. Let the resistance be encountered. Let you trust your system, fine tune your system as you grow, and hold steady through it. Excuse me. So I do think you want to know, I hope that what you guys are gaining from today is that new level, new devil is a part of trading. Like that is kind of a holistic analogy for the trading journey. And it doesn't really stop. I think people who are trading millions experience this in their prop funding companies, in their hedge funds. They experience the devil at their level and they face it every day. And that is where we have to also acknowledge that in our system for our account size and for the growth that we're striving towards, that there's a responsibility with that. And that each time you encounter another level, what are you going to do with that responsibility and how are you going to approach it? And can we break it down into these strategies of, anticipating it, recognizing that this is going to be normal? How am I going to work through it? Which element am I going to level up first so that I'm not trying to go from level 1 to level 50 boss, but instead I'm going to do it intelligently and with eyes wide open and still grow through it, right? Those are the growth stages that we want, that we should all strive to have as traders so that we can get to the higher highs. And even though it's not comfortable, we can stretch our capacity, like humans are incredible. And we've all heard of, really powerful, impactful humans in the history of mankind that have done incredible things. And when they started trying to do those incredible things, it didn't come naturally to them, but there was striving and growth and skills and failures, and then their capacity expanded for their skill and their perseverance and their confidence, and that helped lead them to where they eventually achieved, the big inventors and the earth shakers. So I think if we're still in this phase and we're still early in it, we're not behind, we're becoming. Every trader, like if you I just watched this video over the weekend about a trader, and it took her 10 years to really break through, and now she's massively successful as a trader. And she really spoke to the fact that it was 10 years before she could really say that everything really fell into place and it just was compounding so nicely, and her faith in herself and tuning out the noise and fully believing and progressing. And like a piece was about her in this interview, and it was like, that is not bought, purchased, created out of thin air. That is created over effort and experience and time and progressing levels and levels and levels and falling. And that's what she said too. And so, that's the period of becoming. So if trading ever feels heavy, if you know what I mean, it's not because it's going to be heavy forever. It's because you're growing stronger than you were before. And so you are taking on heavier loads. And so it is heavier, but you are getting better with it. You can do more with it. So what do you guys think? Does this make sense? Does it fit with what you are doing with your trading? What levels are you guys stepping into? Where are you at with all of this? Is there pushback that you are encountering? Is there anything that you think you can do differently, or ways that you can approach it moving forward? What do you guys think? Does this make sense for us as traders? This conversation today, new level, new devil. It's not a signal to stop, but instead I think it's a signal to keep rising. It's a signal that you have done well with this last level. So what can you do with the next one? It's like, think about the video game thing. You've been trying level 6 for multiple days. Finally, you beat level 6, and then level 7, you fail by like the second obstacle, but you're in it. You have made it to level 7. So now it's like, okay, now we're figuring out level 7 obstacles, and we're going to do our best with them. Yeah. Trendy, I did that so much. I got my first payout, I think 2.5 years ago. And I didn't get a payout for, I think, almost 6 months after that. That was a bummer, because I was like so excited. It was summer. It was July. It was my birthday month. And when I got my first payout, and I was like over the moon. I was so strategic about it. I was planning for the next one and how I was going to copy them and moving them on up. Oh no. I'm so sorry about the sound, you guys, today. I will see if there's anything different I can do on my end. But it's the same login I was doing the live stream with the Power Hour. So I don't know, but this will definitely be recorded. In the comments, it's recorded and it will be posted on YouTube. Well, I'm glad that some people got to hear it. Can we leave positions open during closure on brokerage accounts? Somebody else can answer that question, potentially RQ. Yeah, I didn't think so. I think they all wanted them closed at market close, end of day. RQ's got lots of wisdom in the blue sky world. So Pashka, that's a no on brokerage accounts. And any suggestions? You guys have any questions of me? I have a few minutes here to hang with you guys. Any thoughts on this? Any ways I can help any of you? I don't know what Bot has to say about that, but I love that RQ has got my back on this stream always. I'm really glad that I get to hang out with you guys on Tuesdays, because talking about trader psychology and like normalizing the experience of it is helpful for me. I don't know. More people that I talk to about it, I think it's helpful for all of us, but I don't want to project that onto you. But for me, it is validating for what I am working through, what I'm growing through. When I have hard times, it helps me to think about these types of conversations of like, it doesn't mean that I'm not a good trader, and think about how far I've come and how much I have learned, and that what I know now about the market, how I can speak about the market, is light years from where I was year one. And so that was just really, it's grounding for me. Thank you for saving me from the painful loneliness and being part of the community. Show me even when you don't succeed, it's worth it. Gosh, I think even if you haven't succeeded yet, I would reframe that, because I think that by being here, by being around communities and having these conversations and hearing about the journey of it, I think that that is how you grow to the profitability. And I've said it before too, that P&L is a lagging indicator, that the money comes after the growth into the trader that gets paid is created. And that happens from being at these classes, from being at the labs with me on Tuesdays, Coach Matt on Thursdays, and then the live streams in these communities, kicking it back and forth with your trading friends. I know a lot of people have had this experience after their first payout, and it is a hard sucker punch, to be honest with you. Like, I'm 100% sure I cried for a period when I blew it after my first payout. And I just, I am here to normalize that experience, because it takes time to get the experience and the stamina to withstand all of this, and to recognize that these were lessons and that they are shaping you into the trader that needs to know these things in your core, what it feels like to put on too much leverage and have to deal with the outcome of that, and how that's less desirable than keeping your leverage reasonable and letting it grow over time and saving all of your best shots for the best opportunities. So I think recognize that you are among friends and that we are here for the conversations, and to say that trading is not easy because it's a deeply complex situation. Markets will change, technical analysis, there's a lot of angles to learn with that. And psychology is just something that has to level up with time as well. I do think it's a really powerful choice to be in these rooms, to have these conversations. I know I put a good bit of energy into thinking about the topics and then pulling in all of the background stories and information, and then some actionable strategies for every Tuesday labs. And I know Coach Matt does the same on his Thursday technical labs. So just having these two things in your life, and then we've got some new traders in the evening, Coach Breezy and Coach Blasky. We are building a really robust coaching and mentorship here for you guys to help us all grow and level up together and have these real conversations and learn, think about it psychologically and technically, and read the charts. Working on bear breakdowns this week. Yes, Coach Matt. Okay, you guys, this time in 2 days, market close on Thursday, Coach Matt is going to come in with some bear breakdowns, which is a good conversation. So we are going to keep delivering you guys our best content and showing up for any questions. And seriously, if you have any requests of me for a psychology lab, I will continue to show up every Tuesday at market close, bringing different topics every week, open to feedback and comments and questions. And I just really appreciate the awesome humans that are here in our Blue Sky community. Let your friends know this is, anyone can join these labs and can come and hang out and have these conversations, and we can work on our experience and our growth together. TradeZella helping, but I don't get to trade much. It's hard to learn mistakes and practice. Yeah. When you don't have a ton of time to trade, just definitely still, chart on them. And if you can, take time to back test, because sometimes you can work through trade scenarios faster when you're back testing. If you can't, say, sit at your computer for a whole session and trade it out, maybe on the weekends, or if you can just get a 3 or 4 hour chunk of time to go quicker through it in a back testing situation, sometimes you can push the lessons faster in that scenario when your time is limited. Because I've definitely had some really powerful backtesting sessions where I can get through weeks of data in one consolidated, peaceful moment of study sessions where I make notes on the days. And so that can be powerful if you don't have as much time intraday to trade. And then when you do have more time to trade after the fact, those backtesting sessions can make you stronger, because you essentially can kind of feel through the scenarios if you're losing time to actively live trade. How do you practice holding position longer in a funded account? So funded accounts, you do have to, they're intraday. They're designed for day traders, is what the Blue Sky funded accounts are. That's just the opportunity that they present. But you can do in a sim account, you can hold positions longer, or you can get a cash account and trade a micro. If you have a setup that could be intraday, you can approach that differently, because it is true the prop funded accounts are for day trading. In that way, there has to be data collection and a reset of accounts so that they can be kept up with, essentially. I don't work back end, to be honest with you, but that's my understanding, and that's the system as it stands. So you just have to have different accounts for holding swing trading, essentially. That's not what the prop accounts are for, but it's a great question. And, do it in sim if you want to develop that skill before you put real money on, or trade it with a micro is a great opportunity to hold something like that overnight. Good question. I love it when you guys bring questions trendy on point today. And Boba $2, I have been with you on the confidence hit. So what you guys are experiencing, if you're having any of the struggles that we talked about today of the new levels, hang in there, be kind to yourself, give yourself grace, think about the lessons that you are taking from it and how they are getting you stronger, and how when you get through level 6, level 7 is not going to be easier, but it's going to be cool, and you're going to learn even more because there's going to be a new element there. So embrace it, anticipate it, work with it. We got this. Okay, thank you for being here with me at Blue Sky. I am very pleased to be working with you guys and Blue Sky and this amazing community. Coach Mike, owner Mike of Blue Sky, is back in the mornings, you guys. He's back pre-market in the morning and trading the market open with us. So if you haven't caught it already, Market Open with Mike, I believe he's going to be there the rest of this week. Experience that. It's pretty awesome. I came after when he wasn't doing as much of that anymore, so I'm really enjoying it myself too. Yeah, finding his groove again. So you definitely want to catch that. And then Coach Matt, Riz, and I will be here throughout the week as well during the intraday trading. And then again, the second lab this week is Coach Matt on Thursday at market close. And evening times, we have Coach Breezy and Blasky. So a full schedule for you guys this week. So hang with us at Blue Sky. We got you. It's a great community. But for now, enjoy the rest of your afternoon and evening, everyone. Have a great day.